Page Chavtes, it's 8 lines from the bottom at the end of the line. Ubazeh Yuva. So 2 days ago we learned about mitzvahs. And any mitzvah, all mitzvahs equally are merkava for Pnimius Ratzon Alim V'Chavtzi Amiti that they have Hashem. Yesterday we learned Teda. The Teda is not only a merkava Pnimius Ratzon Alim V'Chavtzi Amiti, it's the Ratzon itself. Not only the Ein Sof, which is in Atzilus, V'lo Yoid Ella, save of Kol Alman, as I discussed last night. Now that we just learned about mitzvahs and Tedas the way we just did, Yuvum, we can understand the following. Why is it so much greater? The level of learning Teda, Teda is higher than all mitzvahs, even higher than Tefillah. Even though that Tefillah is davening is the Yichad of the higher worlds, and Teda is higher even than Tefillah. Which is why, of course, as the Gemara says in Masechta Shabbos, a person who's Terasayim Nasei doesn't do mitzvahs and doesn't even daven. The only thing that a person who studies Teda has to do is Krishma, because Krishma is Mesiras Nefesh. It's discussed by Arichas and Sherish Mitzvah Tefillah and in other places as well. But because Krishma you have to do, because you have to have Ratzu. Teda is Shuv. But Krishma, Mesiras Nefesh is a closed Dikar Ratzu, and Teda is a closed Dikar Shuv, as I told you yesterday. There's 248 mitzvahs individual candles. Teda is one light. But this one light encompasses all 248 candles. So you don't have to do the individual mitzvahs, you have the light. But you have to have a Ratzu. The ratzu of the mitzvahs is tefillah. The ratzu of a person terasayim nasei is mesiras nefesh, kriyashma. A person who does not know madrega terasayim nasei doesn't learn Teda as a profession and his whole life. Tzarech lahafsik has to stop his learning in order to daven and to do mitzvahs. So he gives an answer which I don't understand. The explanation is that since he's interrupting anyway, he's mevatel Teda anyway, he becomes mechuyev mitzvah. There's a diuk, the mevatel b'lav hachi. If you're doing something wrong, so I'm punishing you and do mitzvahs. I think Vaistu is that in order for Teda to work in a way that patas you for mitzvahs, you have to use every second. If you don't, the Rambam in Hilchos Talmud Teda pay the gimel. Misha read to liskasekesa Teda la yevatel afil laila achas kol yomov. The azamin sot madrega. So the first point that he makes here is that it's obvious Teda is higher than mitzvahs. And as I told you before, till Pedek Lamed, the mantra of Talmud Teda Keneged Kulam is going to repeat itself 1,000 times. Until Pedek Lamed, Teda is higher than mitzvahs. In fact, the Pedek Lamed Gimel, the Alter Rebbe brings Dira B'Tachteinim. What's Dira B'Tachteinim? Limud HaTeda. Dira B'Tachteinim is Limud HaTeda. But now comes another Nakud. When a Yid learns Teda, even though you don't feel it like we discussed yesterday, you are one with Ein Sof. Says the Rebbe, from this it's understood that a person who is a maskil, who's creative and thoughtful, can bring down upon himself Yira Gedela, the higher Madrega of Yira, which we call Yira Allah, when he's studying Teda. You hear? It says in Chassidus, this 4 Madregas. It says in Zayar really. Yira, Ava, Yira. Yira Tata is afraid of being punished. Ava Seila means I love Hashem because He gives me food, clothing, and shelter. Ava means I love Hashem because God is great. Yiri Law is standing in front of the Melech. And when you stand in front of the Melech, it's also called Ava B'Tanugim. I saw in one place a Yiri Law and Ava B'Tanugim. Same Madrega. You're Ois Metzias. Your whole Metzias become Get Lachai. When a Yid learns Teda, he should be holding by Yiri Law. You know why? Because when you learn Teda, you're Taka one with Ein Sof, like we discussed yesterday. That Kisha is Beinim when you will think. Hey, how? Shenaf, the person's neshama. Uluvusha, the person's garments of Achshava and Dibur. Shebemeach, which is in his brain. Okay, Shebemeach, which is in the mind, which is Machshava. Ubepiv, which is in the mouth, which is Dibur. So we discussed yesterday that Teda is not a merkava of Elikus. It's Elikus itself. Hem yochad, mamish betachos hayichad. Are absolutely one, in the highest level of oneness. Beratz ne'elyin ve'edin tzei baruch hu mamish, the will of Hashem and the edin tzei mamish. Hamizgalabem, which is revealed in them. And as we discussed yesterday at the end of this year, Mashakol, Elam is all of the worlds, even the higher worlds and the lower worlds, Mamish, nothing worth in comparison to the Oidin Sof which is in Teda. Mamish, and it's Mamish, nothing. The level of godless which is in Teda is not manifest, even in the highest worlds. It's hidden from the highest worlds. In a hidden way. To give them life. The primary reason we're alive is because of save of Kol Almin, yet it's hidden from us. Rakit is only a small light, which we would call Mamala Kol Almin. Mislabeshas, listen to my translation, is revealed. B'taychim inside of themselves. Why is Mamala Kalam revealed inside of themselves? Mashi Yechelim Lizbel, they're able to take it. Shalai Yizbat L'B'Metzias L'Gami, they shouldn't lose their form altogether. So each creation feels the light of Mamala Kalam, because that we could feel. Each creation is Iker Chayossi, a save of Kalam, but this you do not feel, because if you feel it, you'll be blown away. Teira is Ein Sof, a save of Kalam. Higher than the highest worlds. So when a Yid would stop and think, as Mendy points out, I don't feel it consciously. When I'm learning Torah, I'm moment this is the highest madreg of Avda Kamimara. It's higher than Atzilas, it's higher than Kesed, it's higher than Alts. So theoretically, Lim without Torah should bring a person to a place of Yirei Allah. Yeah. So first of all, you have to do first Yirei Tata and Ava Selim and Ava Rabba for the Torah to achieve this. And second of all, you have to have a healthy neshama, edel neshama. But this is the mitzvah. The madreg of Torah is Yirei Allah. Torah is you're one with Ein Sof. But that was Shekos, it brings right from a pasuk. The pasuk said, "Vaytavena Hashem kol chukam ha'ela." The Eibush commanded us all these mitzvahs, liyira es havaya v'gema, to fear Hashem. Now I want you to know that it says in Chassidus, there's yira es havaya and yira me havaya. Yira me havaya is yira tata. Yira es meloshen tafel. Es a tafel l'psara yira. When you fear the Eibush, to the extent that you call es tafel to the Eibush, that this is yira Allah. You follow? Yira gedei lazu, on this higher madreg of yira. Amru, it says in Mishnayos and Pekyavis, in Mein Chachma and Yira. Without Torah, you can't have Yirei Allah. In Mein Yira in Chachma means without Yira Tata, you can't have Torah. Right? In Mein Chachma means without Torah, in Yira, you can't have Yirei Allah. Without Torah, Nikras Etzav, the Torah is to Yirei Allah, Tira, a gate, Liderata to the door, Meshkasav Makamach. Torah brings you to Yirei Allah. So, because what is Yirei Allah? You're one with Hashem. You're standing with Eibush. Torah is the same thing. The Alter Rebbe El Novadeh and the Lav Kol Moichas Savaldo. Not every person's brain, not every person's consciousness could actually suffer and experience this Yirah because of such a fear. We're not big enough for it. A, it would blow us away. B, we can't feel it. Says Alter Rebbe, don't worry. It don't matter whether you feel it or not. It's the truth nevertheless. Even someone whose brain doesn't experience this type of fear. Let me know, not it, not a little bit of it. Because of the lowliness of the measure of his soul. In other words, it's not his fault. It's like it says in Tanya Perek Dezayin, the neshama from a lower level, and therefore you can't experience whatever it is. This person's neshama cannot experience Yirei Allah. B'shar shom mekeda, in its root and its source. B'madreges tachteinim, in the lower levels of Esesfiras Da'asiyah, 10 spheres of Asiyah. That because the neshama comes from the lower levels of Asiyah, he can't experience Yirei Allah. Says the Alter Rebbe, don't worry about it. Ein Yirazu, the lack of this Yira is not ma'keves by an obstacle. You know why? Because lemaiseh, what matters? What's the bottom line? You got to do the mitzvahs. All the comments we're going to say later. And since it's not ma'keves by lemaiseh, even if you don't experience consciously Yirei Allah, the ma'ila of Yirei Allah you have. If you do mitzvahs, so even if you don't experience Yirei Allah, the fact of the matter is that the madreg of Yirei Allah is achieved through Limud HaTorah.